don't like us being on here. So one of the functions of the SDR, I can pull the passband completely over to the carrier point. So basically it's like listening to you on lower sideband, and I don't even hear the creep at all. So, and I can go really wide too, but I'm not going to do that. I'm in just stock bandwidth, 5 kc bandwidth, and that's it. And we were on first, so that's beside the point. But now that I'm on a more modern rig, I don't have any issue. Plus, that's it. This even puts out more power. Anyway, that's all great. You know, baguette, I've never made anything like that. When I had the bread machine, David, I mean, I'd make raisin bread, regular bread. I've never made anything fancy, and it sounds like they've come such a long way. This was one that, when they first came out, like 20 years ago. And it was nice. It worked really well for what I used it for. But now I don't eat that much bread, to be honest with you. You know, I try to limit my carbs. I mean, I have a sandwich then and again, but I don't really eat bread that routinely. I have to save the calories for these empty cocktail hour calories. See what I'm saying? So, I mean, you got to have your priorities straight. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that would be nice for your range. You know, he's one of those W3FJJ Joe. I don't know if you've ever talked to him. Timmy's got an Orban, WA1HLR. It's an older one. I think it's a 9000. They're very good. You see them on eBay once in a while, these processors. And like I say, Chuck's got one. He bought his used. I don't know how much he paid for it. I've seen them for $200 or $250 used. So they're quite competitive on the used market. N9PDF, and hopefully we'll get some of the other guys in here tonight also. W2SDR.
Here's one of the other guys now, N2LJO.
There's George.
Good evening. How are you guys? I'm on the ICO and I got the audio changed to it. And let me know how it sounds. Good to hear you. Conditions are pretty good. I'm hearing you both well. Now let's see who else crawls out of the woodwork. Over to you, David. N9PDF and in the group N2LJO.
George, my God, what a signal. Simply marvelous, simply marvelous. Frank, if you say you estimate my bandwidth on your SDR, appreciate it. But my God, George, you sound absolutely terrific. Incredible signal. You know, if you keep the RF gain down at the minimum and the audio gain higher in order to prove the fidelity out of the hammer. But it does a pretty good job at that, like UDCR. Oh my God, are you just zooming in here through? And the Hamlin plus the very big Halifax speaker. Anyway, George, I know I'm going to have that too. And if you try to come back to me, John or Scott, I'll try to make it back to here before the district is on the way to get it back again. Which is my duty.
Handpicked.
Over to Dr. George, N9PDF.
All right, David, very good. Yeah, it's getting to be that hour. I probably won't eat for another hour or an hour and a half or so, but we'll see what happens. What? Forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I made a note here. Okay. The Hamlins. Well, I've owned a lot of different receivers over the years, most of them Hammerlins, and my experience is such that in terms of anything that's not modified heavily anyway, the smaller Hammerlins, the HQ100, 100A, 110, I think I have one of each of those to go with my 170A, but the smaller ones, the 100 and the 100A and the 110, just have the best fidelity of all. And I've always liked them. I started with boat anchors, I guess, what year is this? Oh my God. close to 40 years ago on another band. I had a Ranger 2 and an HQ 110. HQ 100A. And I always marveled at the fidelity. So hopefully this thing sounds okay. It needs a little tweaking, I think, with the EQ, but the level seems to be okay. And I know it's nice and clear. I've got the output power dialed down with a rheostat. It's about 20 watts. And according to my WM1 computing meter, I am making 200 watts. And we were talking about that, I think, the other night. I think it was you and I, with the multiplication or amplification factor. And it has always been with this amp, pretty much 10. So 20 in, 200 out, and I'm getting a lot of forward swing on the peak reading meter. So hopefully it sounds okay. W2SDR with N9PDF. This is N2LJO.
N2LJO in the group, W2SDR. Yeah, I agree. It sounds much better than it did the other night. You were hitting it way too hard. And the EQ that you have set, it sounds really, really good. So what you're doing, George, is you're doing it right. It sounds very nice. Yeah, I had to switch over to the SDR where we're getting some malicious interference from up above. Kind of left over from last night, so much more flexibility with this rig as far as receiving bandwidths and what have you. Running about 275 of carrier, peaking at about 1300 watts with the Anon and the LD Moss amplifier. It just loafs along at this power level. I could run 300 watts all day long, just key it and go out and do some food shopping and come back, and I'm lucky if the fans are even on in this thing. It's a fantastic amplifier. And I've been very, very happy with it. And it's got a built-in automatic tuner, which is nice, because the antenna of mine is resonant up around 3,800. And, you know, since I operate in the AM window, way down low, CW, this, that, and the other, you know, with the built-in tuner and memories in the tuner, nonetheless, it's fantastic. That automatically switch in. It's just very, very nice. I've been very, very happy with it. It was very cold and windy here today. We had gusts close to 50, and it never got out of the middle 30s. Right now, I'm registering a temperature of 35, and that's about as warm as it got today. We're not going to get out of the 30s maybe till the middle to the end of next week. And there's a chance of some snow here over the weekend. Not a lot, but a chance. So, you know, they start with the panic on the TV way, way ahead of time. So now you better make sure you do those dishes like you're supposed to do there, David. So I'll keep it short in case you get the dinner call. And I agree with those little Hammerlins. I had a 160 Hammerlin, and I still have a 140X. And the more expensive ones, you know, they had filters in them, you know, for more, you know, sideband, CW. There were better receivers because of greater selectivity. Because those old little ones and the cheaper ones were broad. And they weren't that good on you know, heavy QRM, but they did have nice fidelity. N9PDF in the group with N2LJO, W2SDR.
Yeah, N2LJO, N9PDF. I don't know when the 145 will fit, 145X. You know that when I got Janet, she has like 25 pages of detailed documentation and measurements she's made on how to change the product detector and improve the audio. And I was listening to her HQ 170 or HQ 180 the 170 she heard the independent sideband very clearly. But then she showed me what the symbol did. And I said, you know, that's pretty damn good, even though it won't do independent sideband. But You know, the only thing I have that's better in selectivity is the Drake R4. When there's garbage on the airwaves, that usually allows me to get rid of it. And, but, you know, noise is something different. My buddy demonstrated a time wave ANC4 filter, noise reduction filter. It wasn't very impressive when he was using it when I was over there. I wasn't that much. Every once in a while, I don't know where. So it was interesting comment is, in Massachusetts, because everybody now can legally have pot, everybody and their mother has gone into pot growing business in their basement. And these all require high intensity discharge light. Now, if you know anything about them, the arc wander. And the arc wander is the 100 kilohertz to megahertz range. And they throw out a ton of noise. And everybody's buying these Chinese lights, no filtering whatsoever. So all these people who are quite knowledgeable about everything going on, I have a reasonable understanding of some of these lamps because we were using them a lot when I was at Lilly, trying to do optical measurements of chemistry inside the body using optical fibers. So I'm not board certified Nobel laureate in optics and light sources, but I learned enough to be dangerous. And anyway, I had not ever heard of that. So this one guy has written letters to VSC, ARRL, pulling his hair out. But George, I wish to listen to how good you sound, but I haven't got the dinner call yet. But I really want to listen to how good you sound. Because I kid you not, unless Frank's off doing something else. And besides, Frank still hasn't told me how wide my bandwidth is. George, you sound better than Frank. I forgot you called N2LJO, N9PDF.
Okay, N9PDF, the group N2LJO. Well, it's not about who sounds better, but I'm glad it sounds good, thank you. And the difference between the other night and tonight is, well, there was one cap in there that was too large. I wasn't sure if it was letting any real low frequency crap through, so I changed that. I got the Chinese EL34s out of it and put in a pair of Russian 6 CA7s, brand new, from with the Electro Harmonics label. And I've got the audio chain going into it instead of the D104. And the audio chain is an MXL 100, 900, I don't know. I've had it for so many years. It's a large diaphragm condenser mic, and I've got that going into an ART Pro Audio preamp. Well, it's a preamp compressor, but I have the compressor bypass. They have a button for that. And that's got a pair of 12AX7s in it. I think only one of them is...
Okay, see you later.
...is the compressor, but... So I've got a 12AX7 in there. And then I've got two $99 Behringer boxes, the 15-band EQ and the, what do they call it? So, Composer Pro. And then at the end of that, I've got a variable attenuator. It's called a nano patch, so I can dial the right level for the different rigs. And I'm going into the grid of the second tube. Actually, the second half of the 12AX7, where the foam patch line was going. But I changed the RCA on the back to a TRS quarter-inch female, so I could just plug my existing audio chain in the same way and have push-to-talk through it as well. So that's what's going on, and I'm watching that little that tube in the front, and it doesn't look like I'm over-modulating at all, and I'm getting a lot of nice forward movement on the meter. And what I like about this preamp, too, is it lets you change phase, and I know between that And the QIX mod monitor I have on the screen here, that I'm in phase, so that's a good thing. My positive peaks are like way over 100, and my negative are barely touching 100. So I guess that's what you want. And yep, those little Hammerlands, they're actually, Frank, they can be pretty good in battle conditions. That Q multiplier, I don't know if you ever played with it, but I'm going back almost 40 years when I was on 11 meters, and I had a guy like 2 blocks around the corner from me, like the same second house off the corner, right in a straight line with me. And he had I don't know if he had a Browning or an FS-23 and a big dirty amplifier. And even with like my Comstat or my sonar or any good tube radio, he would destroy me 5-6 channels each way. And then I got that Hammerland, and I was able to get rid of him to the point where I could be 1 channel away from him. And with my Ranger being only 1 channel away from him, I was wrecking him. And he went out and got a Valiant and a Hammerland. But play with that Q multiplier someday. You'll see it. It really works. And yeah, I'm listening on a well, it's a dongle and up converter in one package that came pre-assembled. So I guess you could kind of call it an SDR radio. It's a soft 66Q from this fellow in Japan. And he used to make the boards that were like the Soft Rock. He had one called the Soft 66, and I built 3 or 4 of them. It's probably going back close to 10 years. Stu, AB2EZ, was a big proponent of that, as opposed to the Soft Rock, because you didn't have to wind the coils. So I've been using that, one of those out in the garage with my Hammerland in here with the different Kenwoods for years. And it's so nice to have that brick wall filtering, Frank. 100%. You are correct. Just to be able to pull the edge of the passband in, and like you say, you could have a carrier, you know, unless the carrier is 0-beated, you can get rid of it. And if it's 0-beated, you can't really hear it, so who cares, you know? So it's definitely the way to go in terms of filtering and battle conditions and all of that. And I didn't hear what was going on last night, but that's a shame, you know. It's only a hobby. All right, over to you, Frank. I guess maybe leave a pause in case David has to pull the plug. He can jump in real quick. Otherwise, over to you. W2SDR and the group N2LJO.
W3FJJ.
Yeah, there's Chuck. He broke in during your transmission about 10 minutes ago and said he had to go, so I heard him underneath you. George, no problem. So maybe he'll be back, like he says, after he eats and does the dishes and the whole bit. Hi, Chuck. Good afternoon to you. Well, I still have a bunch of sonars, CB radios, George. I collect all them. I've got all their models. The FS4, the 40 channel, the FS3023, a couple FS23s. I have amplifiers of sonar, radio direction finders of sonar. I'm quite a sonar aficionado over the years. And, I know Q multipliers. I've built them, used them in receivers over the years. I've had 3 or 4 or 5, I think, different Hammerland models over the years. And the only Drake that I've ever had was a 2C, which was a hybrid receiver. I still have that. And but the only problem with those Hammerlands, with the inexpensive ones, that they're single conversions, so they were really compromised on the upper frequencies. You know, the images, everything. I mean, the better ones, the 170s, the 180s, were multi-conversions, so they were really good receivers on the upper bands. And all the single conversion receivers kind of lost a little bit in sensitivity and image rejection. I mean, that's just the way single conversion is. It's not a knock on them particularly. It's just part of the design. I have a soft rock. I built a couple of those here. They work okay. I've had a lot of fun with them. Yeah, last night I think there was some sidebanders on 3710 that came on after us, and they got a little bug up their butt about AM and this and that, so they were causing somewhat of an issue. And earlier, one guy was up there messing around, and so I decided to come over to the shut down the 101 and come over here on the SDR, and so I have a little bit more options. Let's put it that way. But it's all fun, you know. We're all in here to have fun, so. Chuck, good evening to you. David was in here. He ran for dinner. He may be back, hopefully. And there's George, N2LJO. So it's just the three of us. So over to you, Chuck, and then around to George again. W3FJJ in the group, W2SDR.
Okay, KD3HT acknowledge. Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Frank. Good evening, George. Nice signals here. Yeah, I just caught the tail end of George's transmission there. Sounding great there, George. Good job there on the, I assume that's the ICO. Sounds really good. And better than it was last night with the external audio going into it. Yeah, nice. Let's see. Yeah, I've never fooled with a Q multiplier, and just talking about it, I've got a QF1 Heathkit QF1 here. I've never used, and I really do want to play with that, just to see what it does, because I've never messed with one. Guys speak very highly of, I think it's a Drake. You know, these little Drake 2Bs and the 2As, and then you can get the matching speaker with the Q multiplier in them. Man, they really rave about how that works well. I guess mostly for CW, you know, but I guess they, you know, but yeah, I'd like to see what that does. Kind of understand the principle there. Narrowing down the selectivity. The sonar. I have a sonar marine radio here. It's a Model 65. I've never fooled with that either, and that's another project. You guys talking about sonars, and I got this one from PTX. I'm not sure where he got it from. Anyway, it's a really cute little transceiver, and I think it's covers 160 meters to might even go up to 80. Let's take a look at it. Well, it's got a it's vacuum tubes, and it's got a real robust tank circuit in it. It's kind of low power, but man, that thing's really built like a really built well. It's heavy duty. So anyway, I'll keep it short here, keep it rolling, and pick up Steve. How you doing today? 33 degrees here in Newark, Delaware. KD3HT with the group. W3FJJ.
Yeah, okay, Chuck, just checking my meters here. I had the tuner, this antenna tuned to 160 last night, and as you know, and I remembered to tune it back up here today. I'm playing with a new application. I'm playing with SDR Uno, working off of a EXT-IO interface with this receiver I have. It seems to be okay. It's still not as flexible as Power SDR. It's still what I'm trying to get to, but we'll get there. Anyhow, George, you sound good. I tried to make a recording off of this, but it saves stuff in WAV, and it's huge, so I got to have something to convert it down. The first recording I made, I forgot to turn off, so that got really big. And the second one I did for, you know, what I would figure a normal number of seconds, but being that it took it kind of raw, it's pretty big. And good afternoon to you, Frank, as well. Everybody's very strong in here, like 40 over and such. This radio actually has an S meter on it, but they're not. I don't know why they don't like calibrate where the signal levels are, but I guess even if you do, if you put in more an attenuation in the front end, it knocks it down a bit. I'm not using an AGC here. I kind of knocked it down with an attenuator when they said it's kind of you get the best signal and noise that way. I also have to start playing with some ferrite and try to clean things up as much as I can. But anyway, I'm making progress. I can even move my feet on the floor here without kicking anything. And my desk, I can see parts of it that are clean. So, little at a time. Over to you, George, N2LJO in the group KD3HT.
KD3HT in the group, N2LJO. Nice to hear you, Steve and Chuck. I wish I had kept my FS2340 for my 11-meter days. I still have other rigs from that era that I had on the air, my Comstat 25A and 25B, and my HE20C Lafayette, which was the first rig I ever had. And though I never had one on the air because it was solid state and wasn't really well regarded, I grabbed a realistic Navajo up at Nearfest for $20, I guess, a couple of years ago, just to have it on the shelf and look at it because it reminds me of some friends I had back then. I could picture it sitting on their desks, you know. But I wish I had kept that sonar. And they go for big bucks now. And for just to spend $350, $400 on something that I'll never use just to look at it is kind of silly. I was there, actually. I was at Sonar. They were on Workman Avenue in East New York, Brooklyn, off of Linden Boulevard and Pennsylvania Avenue. There was a guy who was on 11 meters, Mike Esposito, and he had a company called Firecom Communications, and he was a dispatcher for the Brooklyn FDNY. And of course, I grew up actually before 11 meters, listening to public service. And he was always trying to, could I interest you in a sonar? Always trying to sell people sonars. And the one I wound up with, I don't think it came from him. I wound up buying his Hammerland, though. HQ100A. His was the Hammerland I first owned. And I remember being with him at the sonar factory, and it was quitting time. And they had all the workers lined up going out one exit door, and they all had to open their bags and like show that their pockets were empty. Because I guess one piece at a time, they could steal a radio, right? An RF can one day, a knob another day, a tube another day, like the guy mailing a Jeep home from Korea, one piece at a time. And as far as the stuff with 3710, I've heard those guys up there a lot. Some of them seem to have a lot of crap on their signals. But generally, I think we've coexisted pretty well, so hopefully it doesn't evolve into a situation like up in the window there with you-know-who and you-know-who. But we got to start taping and emailing complaints in. And you know, very few people know about this HFDFC, and I didn't know about it until maybe 2 years ago. It's very interesting to read about. The High Frequency Direction Finding Center that the FCC has set up, or is it HFDFS for system? It's one or the other. And they have these stations in different places. I'll wrap this up. I know I'm making a long one. they have these stations in different places, and the bottom line is they can narrow down to within an eighth of a mile. And that's what they use on complaints before they send the field agents out. It's very interesting. You've got to read about it. Okay. To avoid making a longer buzzer than I've made already, it goes back to Frank, W2SDR in the group N2LJO.
Yeah, I don't like the long buzzards here when we have a lot of people. I lose concentration and, and all that, but that's okay. W2SDR. Well, I have lots of sonars. I've got a brand new, a 2340 that I bought brand new. It still looks brand new. All original tubes. It's in perfect condition. I have a 3023, an FS23. I have a Model G, a Model H, a Model E, which are the crystal control transmit, a 2906 amplifier. I have one of those. I have a DR21 amplifier that has a tab on it. You can use it on 6 meters also, not just 11 or 10. And they all work great. And I use them because I talk to my son. He's on CB. There's CBers around here. I use those radios. I don't mind saying that. There's people on there to talk to, and I use them. And sonars are a great radio. And I have I don't know if you saw that, Chuck, when you were over here. I have a Sonar Marine direction finder radio in my barn. I know Ed saw it. And that's a nice piece. Sonar make great stuff, man. They're very heavy. They made ham rigs. I'd love to have one of those. They made monobanders, a 20, a 40, and an 80. All monobanders. They're very rare. And you hardly ever see any of those that are for sale. They all look the same. And they're monobanders. They all have those famous looking sonar knobs, those big black Bakelite knobs. Yep, a lot of memories, a lot of good memories. That's for sure. I was never embarrassed to say I was a CBer. And I was a CBer after I was a ham. Because I've been a ham since the middle 60s. And I didn't get into CB till probably 69. So I was a ham and a general. Because I never had a lower license than that. I went right for the general at 16. And but I was a ham before I was a CBer. And I still enjoy CB and never minded talking about it. Well, I would have loved to go to this sonar factory in Brooklyn, man. That would have been really cool. Really, really cool. Steve, you got a great signal. Everybody sounds real good tonight. And let me see. It goes, I guess, to Chuck. W3FJJ in the group W2SDR.
W2SDR in the group W3FJJ. Very good all the way around. Good evening, Steve. I was typing in sonar there and checking out. I found the guy claims one of the rarest radios, and I don't disagree with that because it's a 2-meter AM rig by Sonar, a CD2. Man, that thing that looks pretty ancient there with this black crinkle paint on the front. Old buzzard. Anyway, interesting on that company. Don't know too much about them. Didn't know they made CBs. I knew they were in the marine stuff. And you mentioned, Frank, the marine direction finder. I don't remember that offhand. Those, by the way, those direction finders are pretty cool. I've got one here. It's a solid state unit that was made in Japan, but man, that thing has got a great receiver in it. Runs off of 8D batteries, and that's my backup radio when the power goes out or whatever, and it picks up 80 meters. That rotatable loop antenna, it's just got superb sensitivity. and of course, you know, covers the AM broadcast band and low frequencies. Even has a weather 5 megahertz the weather band that picks up that's the weather. Yeah, this is the weather. Emergency, whatever. That band. But I digress. Also was looking up, I found the webpage for the FCC's High Frequency Direction Finding Center. Yeah, I didn't know about that. Not seeing like any interesting links on the page, but I did find their webpage. What else here? Frankly, got my Woodford Reserve cherry bitters today in the mail, and just tried some out here. 2 droplets. I don't know how many you used, but I figure if it has an eye droplet, you don't want to probably put too many in. That stuff's expensive too. You get a little bottle, man. It's like 2 milliliters, or 2 mil, maybe more bigger than 2 milliliters. But anyway, it's a little bottle. But so far so good. Tastes, I can tell the difference. There's nothing like cherry, some kind of flavor of cherry in a Manhattan. I've just used. I think I might have told you. You know, if you get just the old cheapo maraschino cherries there in a jar, and put a little of the juice in there with it. That comes in the jar there. That works pretty good too. All right, Steve. Good on getting that software running there with your. And this is your SDR Play. So I wonder how you like that compared to what you've been using. And I guess the ultimate would be get the Power SDR working with it there. I don't know if it's possible, if guys have done it, or if it's or if they have and you just haven't been able to get it working yet. KD3HT and the group W3FJJ.
Sorry, I had to find the right box here. This program has like I don't know, 4 or 5 different screens and all these different control screens for different uses, and so it's you got to have the right window up to do what you want to do. Here, around here, that's you get a lot of truck drivers going through. That's about it. But I guess they're mostly on 440 now. Anyway, yeah, this sounds pretty good, and I like the way the synchronous detector works. He actually exposes all the controls for it, so you can play around with it. And it also, you know, when you're using it. It shows double sideband, which is great, and then you can switch between the other sidebands you want, and it doesn't mess things up. The other programs always sound different when you switch, and this one actually does a good job. So I like the Flex software, the Power SDR. I thought that did a very good job there. Certainly, out of all the applications that I've played with thus far, has been the most flexible. Being that it was, you know, pretty much one of the first ones too. It's damn good. Anyhow, sonar. I think I've had one of them in the past, or had an opportunity, but I never showed up. Just the normal stuff, Couriers, and what was the Tram, and the Browning, and a couple of people running Johnson equipment. But, mostly cheap commercial stuff. And a lot of Lafayette stuff, George. I mean, there were Radio Shack stuff around, but Lafayette's always been better. And Comstead stuff always was more enjoyable to run. So, I've seen them and I've thought about it, but it'd be something that would sit and never get used.
Well, I use it all the time. I'll talk to you on it.
Get on there, pretty much. All right, let's see. Yeah, I was outside a bit before. It's a bit cooler here.
You can't get any money on 6 meters.
The 20s, we've had flurries. Like we have a light covering the snow on the ground. I was moving some wood from the front of the house to the back of the house. Covered the wood pile with a tarp tonight. Very little outside. Most of the time is spent here in the daytime, sitting, working. So, ready to fire up guitar amps too. Getting that organized over there, and really need to take my Fender apart here and restring it. I bought new pickups for it, or Joan did for Christmas a couple of years ago, and I could put
We can speed this up a little bit.
these other pickups. So maybe something I'll get into eventually. What else have I heard? I haven't heard much, and seen even less. So there you go. I guess over to you, George, again. Right? Yes. N2LJO, KD3HT.
Okay. Anybody have to get in and sign or something? I heard somebody keying up there.
Maximum mea culpa, George, N9PDF. Frank, are you going to admit your sins to God?
Yeah, David's there. I hope we can speed this up a little bit with the group. I mean, I'm losing concentration. I know I'm a pain in the ass regarding this, but, that's just, I'm throwing it out there. Welcome back, David. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, okay. N2LJO. Well, I think we all take notes, and you listen to 4 other people, and they say something, and you have something to say regarding each of the things that each of the 4 people say. So you want to kind of reply to everyone, and it's kind of tough sometimes to limit the time on that. But anyway, I went from 100 milliwatt HTs when I was a kid to really being into listening to public service, to being on 11 meters with the tube, synthesized rigs. Never owned a transistor rig. Then I got into the bone anchors because there was a guy in Brooklyn who, Artie Windjammer, used to run a Johnson 500 on Channel 12. And he lived in a private house directly next to a 6-story apartment building. And he had his antennas up on top of the bulkhead on the roof of the apartment building. So we all thought his family owned the apartment building. They didn't. I don't know what arrangement he had, but that's where his antennas were. And he was the king. So I said, maybe if I get a little Johnson, I could sound a little something like him. And that was how I got interested in the boat anchors. And then finally I got my ticket in 1990. And the affliction stays with me. And yeah, that HFDFC is very interesting, Chuck. It's interesting to read about it. I don't know what the correct word for triangulation with 12 antennas is. But I think from what I remember reading, they had like 12 stations in different places. And they can narrow someone down to like within an eighth of a mile. Small box. So if you put a complaint in with a tape about something that's going on habitually, they turn that thing on, get an idea of where the person is. And I know for a fact that there have been people that, situations that were resolved doing it that way. Anyway.